A Florida woman grows tired of being a caretaker for her blind husband. He disappears February of 2017. When people start to ask questions, Dorothy Singer makes up a different story for each person she talks to. She told his boss that he was abusive to her, and the authorities had given him an ultimatum to move out or be arrested. She told other people that he was living with his sister. Now, she told his sister that he had moved out of state. All of the time, she was using his bank cards, spending his money, and sending odd text messages from his cell phone. In reality, Charles Singer was buried in the backyard, wrapped in a tarp and mothballs underneath a boat. Hold on, this case is a wild ride with a bombshell revelation at the end. This episode is brought to you by Chaos Rules in Madhouse, Madison County, Missouri. This rural community should be a safe place, but it hides a dark secret. Fredericktown is one of the most dangerous places to live in America. With a crime rate of 31 per 1,000 residents, Fredericktown has one of the highest crime rates compared to all communities of all sizes. I started researching one case sent to me by a desperate grandmother that led me to 15 more. Then I realized this county has had murder, corruption, and chaos since before the Wild West days. This book will start with a lynching by a Fredericktown mob in 1844 and will end up in an explosion. Hold on to your seats when you read this one. You're in for a wild, chaotic ride through rural Missouri. Check out my new book, Madhouse, Madison County, today.
Hi guys, welcome to another True Crime Tuesday. We are chasing justice on True Crime Tuesday. I am your host, Justinova Cantrell. I have two of my favorite co-hosts on the line. I have fellow victims advocate and fellow crime writer, Cricket Andrews. How are you, Cricket?
I'm good. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show.
I also have one of my favorite research assistants, and most of the video clips and little pictures and things that you've seen in that intro video was sent to me by my favorite research assistant, Tammy. Sometimes I call her Miss T. So how are you, Miss T?
I'm good.
Thank you all for all of you that have signed on to the live video. I've seen some of you sign on at 6 o'clock and sit there and waited and let it run in the background until I came on live. I love to see it. I love to see your conversation. I appreciate you guys signing on. Thank you for those of you that sign on every week. I appreciate it. I depend on you guys very much. So this episode is brought to you by, of course, you've seen my book, Madhouse, Madison County. Make sure and jump on and get you a copy of that. It's also brought to you by Bones Coffee. So we'll be sipping, I sip iced coffee throughout the show. And then usually I'm all hyped up after the show and can't go to sleep. So, this is brought to you by Bones Coffee and Madhouse Madison. So make sure and check out those links in the video description. Also, I found out YouTube sent me a status update, and it said that 70% of my viewers aren't actually subscribed. Now, I realize a lot of you get my links sent to you every week, either by email or through Messenger or by text message. But if you don't mind, make sure that you have hit the subscribe button, because sometimes you might be getting my stuff through other means and not actually subscribe. That actually happened to Miss Cricket. So she thought she was subscribed all this time, and she actually wasn't, because I always send her my link. And so she was getting the stuff, but didn't realize she wasn't subscribed. Now, when you subscribe, it really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. So thank you for signing on. Thank you. I think that's all of the business that we have to cover. So we're going to jump right into it. This case is very strange. This case is out of Florida. Now, the lady's name is Dorothy Singer. Now, in February of 2017, Dorothy Singer's husband, Charles, known as Butch Singer, disappeared. He stopped showing up for work about February 8th. He got a call. His boss got a call from his wife that said that he had been abusive to her, and the police gave him the ultimatum that he could either leave the house and move out, or he could be arrested. And so the boss didn't turn him in as a missing person. She got an information that she needed. So we are talking about someone who just falls off the map. And it takes 2 months before they find out that all of the stories that his wife, Dorothy, has been telling over the last 2 months, none of the stories really add up. So she told the boss that he had been abusive and the police escorted him off the property. So the boss didn't turn him in as a missing persons. She told some other people that he had left, that they had an argument, and she kicked him off the property. And so he left and he was living with his sister. She told his sister that he had that they had argued and she had kicked him off the property and that he had gone to live out of state. So each person was told a different story, and eventually these people start talking to each other and they find out everybody's been told a different story. So 2 months after he goes missing, his sister actually calls in a missing persons report. Now, within 2 weeks of this missing persons report, poor Charles would be found buried in his backyard underneath, rolled up in a tarp in mothballs and tucked underneath a flat bottom boat. Now, you'll find that this is one of those disturbing cases where you wonder how in the world could this have gone so far for so long and nobody had caught this. So that's what we were talking about. We're going to talk about the case where Dorothy Singer had decided that she was tired of being a caretaker, because you'll find out that Charles was 48 years old, but he was legally blind and he had no driver's license. And so he did have a job and he did do what he could to take care of himself, but you will find out that Dorothy did have to be a somewhat of a caretaker. And the only explanation we can come up with is that she got tired of it. So you'll find out that she immediately started alleging abusive relationships, that he had hit her. You'll find out that all of these stories never really pan out. The only people that actually say that he was abusive to her was her. None of his previous relationships had reported him as abusive. The police had been to the property for other things twice, and but neither one of them were for domestic violence incidences. So you'll find out that she tried to control the narrative and paint him as an abuser from the very beginning. The day after, when she told his boss that he had been abusive to her, and the police threw him off the property, that is just a quick example of her trying to control the narrative. So this is what we're talking about. You're going to find out that this poor man was buried in his own backyard underneath his own flat bottom boat. You're going to find out that he was shot in the chest and 4 times in the head. Now, she's going to tell the police, and she's going to contend all the way up to trial time that she had actually fought him off in self-defense, and she blacked out, so she wasn't quite sure what happened, but she knew she fought him off in self-defense, and it was out in the backyard near the pig pen. Now, that is actually relatively close to where his remains would be found, but there is a little problem with that story. You'll find out that there was also blood spatter on the headboard of their bed in the master bedroom. So the defense would say that she killed him in the house, that she shot him 5 times. She emptied her .22 caliber gun into him 5 times and then drug him outside. So this is where we are. What's really scary is she had been convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without parole. But through a legal loophole, that sentence was actually changed, and that she won a new trial. And it looked like she may actually end up getting off with this, even despite all of the disturbing evidence and all of her conflicting statements and all of her activities in the 2 months where she was trying to hide this. But she did eventually plead guilty to a second-degree murder charge, which means she still contends that it wasn't premeditated. And but she did get 32 years, sentenced to 32 years, and she will have to serve a mandatory 25 of that term before she gets up for any kind of parole. Now, we're going to talk about that legal loophole and how could it possibly be that she might get off on this. And we're gonna talk about all the red flags that were missed in this case. And then there is one gigantic bombshell announcement about this case that we're going to drop on you at the end. So, Cricket, I'll start with you. What did you think when I first sent you the link to this video, to this case? What did you think?
Bunch of BS.
It
Well, the stories that she was telling and how to keep him going, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
That with what I do, I'm good at getting information out of people, dangling that worm or that hook and sucking them in. And the big mistake that people make is you're thinking out of your head, not out of the person. A blind person is not going to be texting everybody like that, the way she was doing it.
Right.
You know,
Right. That was one of the things that made the sister suspicious because he was blind enough. He could not text on his phone. He had to use a talk to text app. Now, we all know that talk to text sometimes screws up and puts the wrong word into a sentence, but it doesn't usually misspell the words. It might use the wrong word, but it doesn't misspell words. And so she started getting text messages from her brother's phone that had random words misspelled. And then the things that were being said didn't really add up. And so the sister eventually kept finding all these discrepancies. And finally, when she had enough evidence to prove this, and from what I understand, the sister lives, I don't know if the sister lives in another state or what it is. She didn't live nearby. So it was one of those things where she had to collect enough evidence before she could get the police involved. So I'm sharing my screen. Can you guys see it? This is the arrest report. Can you guys see this? Okay.
Oh,
Go ahead. Cricket, Terry.
I just said, yeah, we can see it.
Okay. So right here in the middle, it says Dorothy Singer on or in between February 8th, 2017 and April 7th in the county of Flagler, in the state of Florida, did unlawfully kill and murder Charles Singer. So this is the report that goes into this. Now you'll find out that February 8th, there is a video surveillance of him at a convenience store purchasing some items. It was a convenience store or grocery store or something. And there was a surveillance of him then. He did not show up to work on February 9th. February 10th is when his boss got this phone call saying that he had been kicked off the property and he wouldn't be returning to work. So basically, she says she blacked out. She's not sure what happened, but they were fighting February 8th through the 10th. They were fighting nonstop. And so she claims that they got into an altercation and that he got violent when he got drunk and that he had been hitting her and hitting her head against the trailer and that he had grabbed her by the neck and that she got up the next morning and she had bruises on her neck. And so, but there was no proof of this. She said that she took pictures of it and sent it to her mother. But then by the time her mother got on the witness stand, her mother had to admit that she'd never got these pictures. So everything that she says, just the lies just add up and up and up. So on this report, you see on March 23rd is when Elizabeth, which is his sister, actually called the police department, and she said that she filed a report that is missing persons, and she told about all of these incidences that she had. Now, when you scroll down, you'll find out that on March 29th, Elizabeth, she was trying to get a hold of her brother, and if you read down through this, and you can get links to this online, you'll find that there were several times that she tried to call Dorothy. She tried to get a hold of Dorothy, and Dorothy at first told her that he was out of state and that he would be back in a few days, and he would call her when he got back, and that she had his phone. He had left and forgot his phone, but she would make sure he called him when she got back. That never happened. There was a little party that they were supposed to go to, and she said that they couldn't go to because she even told at one point that the FBI had showed up at her mother's residence conducting a narcotics investigation on Butch. None of this is true. So she finds out that that didn't happen either. So she's telling one of his friends that he had left and he was living with Elizabeth, which is his sister. Well, when that friend ends up talking to Elizabeth, Elizabeth's like, I haven't seen him in 2 months. So then you find out that she said that he left and took she told the police that when he left, he walked out, he had all of his belongings. He had his clothes, he had his phone, he had his wallet with his debit cards. Well, they would find out that they started doing tracing on his accounts and things. Well, here's a whole list of things, transactions that happened with his cards. Not one of those on video surveillance is actually him. They found video surveillance on these purchases here, and they are all Dorothy using his card. Now, the most disturbing one is the second one on February 13th, the Dollar General. They went to Dollar General and got copies of the transactions and the receipts, and at that time, she bought bleach, mothballs, and a camouflage colored tarp. Okay, so all of that was right here for this February 13th. They have surveillance footage of her purchasing these items. They have the receipt. They have the fact that it came out of his account, and so she said that he had all of his cards. So this is just her getting caught in another lie. Those cards were being used, but they were being used by her. And then, of course, on February 25th, she took out $400 from the ATM. So she was using his money, using his cards, using his EBT account. All these records show that, yes, it was being used, but it wasn't being used by him. She also told police that he had left and taken his phone. Well, she had told Elizabeth that he didn't take the phone. Well, so they start doing some searches and things on the phone, and they find out that not only did he not have his phone, her phone and his phone were in close proximity to each other the entire 2 months that he was supposedly gone. They also find out that all of these random odd text messages were sent from his phone, but her phone was in close proximity at the same time. So they were like within arm's reach of each other. What people don't realize is the technology of all of our smartphones now is so much more advanced. Used to, they would triangulate their phone's position based off of which towers it was pinging off of. Now you've got GPS on all these phones. It can do step counting. It can do all these. It can literally tell you if that phone is moved from one end of the dresser to the other end of the dresser. It can show that. And so people, they think they can outsmart police. And this is one of those cases where she's like, oh, no, he has it with him. Look at all the text messages he sent his sister. Well, they can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that that phone was not only in her house when those text messages were being sent, but it was within a few feet of her cell phone as well. So it was just proof positive of another lie. Again, she claims that this was all self-defense and that he had been abusive to her, that it was a tumultuous marriage for the last 3 years. But there was no reporting of that to the police. There was no reporting to that to the friends. His exes never reported him as abusive. Nobody reported this other than her and after he disappeared. Now, this is where we need to understand that her cell phone, the cell phone evidence, proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that she was the one that was sending those text messages. Now, here's another thing. It's kind of hard to keep up with all of the lies that this woman told. She also said that she let it on to believe that she didn't own a gun. Okay, she didn't really own a gun. Well, the 22 gun that they believe the bullets were consistent with the type of gun, she had borrowed her sister's gun and had it for 2 or 3 years. Well, her sister brought it to the police and turned it in. She said, my sister, Dorothy, gave this back to me 2 or 3 days after her husband went missing. So literally, she had a borrowed gun and then decided to give it back 3 years later after she killed somebody with it. So this is, again, it's just another piled on mess of a lie that she is told throughout this whole process. Now I'm going to share my screen to a video that shows the police finding the remains. But before I do that, Tammy, did you have anything to add?
I was just gonna say she should have stuck to one story.
Well, if that one story had told everybody the same story, it would have been easier for her to get away with this.
And that's the thing, and we see it over and over again. They think that they're smart,
Right.
but telling all these stories, keeping the phones with them,
And then sending random
overdoing it
text
to
messages
try
to cover it up.
yeah, and overdoing it to pretend that there's somebody that they're not.
Mm-hmm. All of that is just it's nonsense. Okay, so I'm having a hard time finding the screen where I'm having a hard time finding the right screen. So I'm going to just show you first where they found him. So can you guys see this? I'll try to make it big. Can you see it better? If I make it too big, it distorts.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so this is the back side of their property, and there is a flat bottom boat covered by tarps and just random twigs and stuff laid across the top of it. That's where he was found. He was found underneath that boat on his own property. Now,
and that even seemed out of place too, because the yard was so kept, and then you have that trash. That's what it looks like.
Well, around the house was kept, but it didn't look like anything else was.
Right.
So let me get this pulled up here. And this is True Crime Stories YouTube channel. So give them a shout out because this is their channel. Of course, this is actually the police body cam footage. I don't know where True Crime Stories YouTube channel found this body cam footage, but thank you for sharing this information. So girls, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to play a first few seconds of this because we don't want to type their entire video. The back of the property, and this is them finding the remains.
Oh yeah, yeah. Hey. Yep. All right.
We got a photo. Let me see. So this is that is them actually finding it on the back of the property. So it's disturbing to me because he had been there for 2 months. He wasn't properly buried, so he was just in a tarp. And they said that not only was he in a tarp, he was also wrapped in the bedclothes that matched the rest of the bedclothes in the room. So her entire defense rested on the fact that she did this in self-defense, and he attacked her out by the pig pens, which was actually relatively close to where that boat was. Now, unfortunately, this is going to be the one thing that actually the loophole that she almost gets away with this. Okay. She wins a new trial because her whole defense outline, it's a big strategy, is to prove that she's a battered woman, and that they were both drinking. She blacked out. She didn't really know what happened, which, when you black out, that's not exactly the way that works, which we will talk about that later. But she supposedly don't remember it all. She's got memories slowly coming back, basically, as she needs to build a new narrative. The memories just happen to come back. But her whole defense rests on the fact that this was not premeditated. This was, he attacked me out by the pig pens and I shot him in self-defense. But 12 days before this was going to go to trial, the prosecuting attorney's office got their evidence back, got the information back on the blood spatter, and it proved that DNA on the headboard matched her husband. So she had bleached the whole place. They said that there was no visible evidence in the master bedroom, but they did it under their luminol. They did it under their lights and everything. And that's when they seen all of the blood spatter on the headboard through the luminol. So they took those samples, and they had this expert that was going to testify that this was where he was killed based on the blood spatter evidence. Well, the defense contended that 12 days before trial wasn't enough time for them to mount a proper defense, and that they were going to have to change their whole strategy. And I'm like, yeah, you have to change your whole strategy because your strategy is false. But so they contended that this wasn't enough time. The judge said, too bad. You have 12 days to figure it out. Well, later on, after she had been convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without parole, another judge overthrew that judge's decision and said, you should have gave them more time. And so she actually almost got away with this. And I contend she didn't get the punishment she deserves because of this situation. So she had her whole story laid out of how she was a battered woman, that she blacked out, didn't know what happened. This was just a reaction. There was no premeditation involved. And that this happened out there, and she basically buried him just about where he fell. Well, she almost gets away with that lie until their evidence comes back in. Now, she goes and wins a brand new trial. And this is what's disturbing. She does win a trial, and they throw out her conviction, and she gets a new trial. But before the new trial comes in, somehow they convince her that it would be best to not go through another trial. And I contend that this is the reason why. I was trying to figure out why would she spent all this time saying that she was this battered woman and this was self-defense. And then all of a sudden, before the second trial comes in, she pleads guilty to second-degree murder and gets 32 years in prison, mandatory 25 years. And I'm trying to figure out why. Well, when you look through, you'll find out that her case, along with two other cases in Florida, made headlines. And there was a big judge that was deciding if he was going to push for the death penalty. So she was included in that. And they were determining that because of the heinous nature of the crimes, that they were going to put the death penalty on the table. So basically, she took a plea deal that said if she pled guilty, she wouldn't have to have another trial. She wouldn't run the risk of a death penalty trial. So I contend that this was absolutely premeditated, and that this was not an issue of domestic violence. This was not an issue of a self preservation. This was not anything like that. And that's what I hope to get through to you guys. And then you guys can make your own decision. I'll give you all the information. But let me tell you what happened to this poor man. First of all, he was shot in the chest. and then he was shot 4 times in the head. So when you have all these cases that I've seen before, there have been cases where someone is shot multiple times in self-defense. It's usually an automatic or a semi-automatic weapon. So it's not a matter of them pulling the trigger more than once. It's a matter of them holding the trigger a little too long. Okay. In a panicked state, that has happened. But usually all of the bullets are going in randomly, but they are going in relatively the same place on the body. They're not in 2 drastic different places unless it's a matter of they fall. But this is one of those cases where if she shot him in the chest first, which I contend she did, if she shot him in the chest first, he fell down. Okay, you don't, in the movies, you get shot and you keep moving. That doesn't happen in reality. Rambo doesn't exist. I'm sorry. You get shot. 99% of people, you get shot, you're down. Now, you might be some, highly trained military, something or other, that you can keep going. But 99% of people, you get shot in the chest, you're down. So I contend that she shot him in the chest, and then she continued to finish him off by emptying her gun in his head. And that takes a level of psychosis and viciousness that I think takes her out of the realm of self-defense. Because when you get shot or a bullet goes into a human body, it makes damage. It disfigures. It is gruesome. You don't get shot and it's not hard to look at. You know what I mean? And she continued to stand over this person and continued to shoot him and disfigure his head 4 times in a row. So to me, that takes it beyond the level of self-defense and into a whole different realm. What do you think, Cricket and Miss T? What do you think?
Oh, definitely. And in her own words, I emptied my gun into his head 4 times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's not self-defense talking. That is vicious.
Yeah. Yeah. And to me, this is where he's blind. He's legally blind. And I'm not saying that because if you're legally blind, you can't be abusive or you can't be, violent or anything like that. But he's legally blind. It wouldn't be that hard to outrun the guy. It wouldn't be that hard to get away. So at some point in time, you begin to think that there's something else going on here. What do you think, Miss T? Do you think that level of viciousness actually points to self-defense or premeditation?
No, it don't sound like self-defense to me. I think if there was any abuse going on, it was probably on her part. Who knows? She could have been abusive to him. It might have been a tumultuous relationship, like she said, but if it was on her part.
Right. To me, it seems like there's more evidence to prove that she was the aggressor than there is evidence to prove the other way around. And there's a lot of information online about this. There's not a lot of videos, but there's a lot of information online. So let me show you a picture of their house.
And I feel too like an abusive person doesn't speak as vile as she was doing to his family members and everybody else.
Yeah.
Like making him sound like he was such a monster and just the words she was saying.
Well, and she didn't have any of the body language of a victim. She had the body language of the aggressor.
Exactly.
And you can see in her face, you can see in her mannerisms that she had the aggressor. She looked more like the aggressor, and looks can be deceiving. I'm not saying that they don't, but I believe that it looks more like she was the aggressor. Okay, can you guys see her house now?
Yes.
Okay, so this is what Cricket was talking about. You see, all this property here is it's been mowed and taken care of. Back over here is where the pig pens were, and back on the backside over here, you can see where the woods kind of start. Back over there, I believe, is where they found the boat. So yes, this over here is fairly manicured. And then back there is not. So this just gives you an idea of what we're talking about. So it wasn't a huge area, wasn't a huge place. This gives you a picture of her. Can you see her picture?
Yeah.
Of course, I flashed her picture. This is her mugshot. I flashed her mugshot a couple times in the intro video, and then this is the victim. This is Butch down below. I can't get it to get any bigger. I will try to find a bigger picture for him. So this kind of gives you an idea of who we're talking about, and this is where we need to. Here's another picture of her sitting in court. Let me see if I can share that with you so you can see that. So what really bothers me about this case is the fact that she, despite all of the lies, despite all of the discrepancies, despite all of the evidence, this woman got another trial. She won a new trial. And this is where I want you guys to tell me in the comments, if you're watching this later or in the live chat, tell me, what do you think? Do you think this woman deserved a new trial because basically the evidence proved her story completely false 12 days before the trial? Do you think she deserved a new trial so she had time to come up with a new lie?
No.
What do you think? This is her picture of her in court. What do you
No.
guys think? Tell me in the comments. Let's generate some conversation here. Do you think she deserved a new trial? Because basically, to me, there's reasons to get new trial. There are legal loopholes and legal guidelines that you're supposed to go by and all this stuff. But in this case, the only thing that happened was the evidence came in to prove that she was lying again. And so she threw a fit and says, I don't have enough time to come up with a new story. Okay. And so the judge went ahead and said, too bad. You don't need to come up with a new story. The evidence shows that you're lying. But then there was another judge that changed it and gave her a whole new trial. So to me, I think I agree with the first judge. The evidence disproved your lie. You have 12 days to figure it out. I agree with the first judge. I don't think she should have got another case. Tammy, do you think she should have got another trial?
No, and didn't they tried to say, oh, it was animal blood, it wasn't even human blood. They tried to say that.
Yeah, they tried to say that it was animal blood. They tried to say that so many things. They tried to say so many things, and none of it was true. Okay, so Cricket just sent me a picture of the victim, a little bit bigger picture. So let me see if I can. Oh, come here. Where are you? All right. So this is a little bit bigger picture, so you can see him. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So this is him with his glasses on. You can tell his eyes don't track together. You can see how thick the glasses are. You can see that he can't see very well. Then, like I said, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's not abusive. But I do believe that she should not have gotten a new trial based on the fact that the evidence came in that proved she was lying. To me, that's not enough. They said, well, you should have given her more time to change her defense tactic. And I'm like, no, her defense tactic was an outright lie, and the evidence just proved it wrong. That doesn't mean she deserves a right. Okay, let's wait another 3 months to give his family justice. Give her enough time to come up with a new lie and a new story and try to fabricate something else. So to me, I don't think that was a legitimate reason for her to get a new trial. I think that in this country, our laws are getting so open to interpretation. There aren't any laws anymore. There are, I heard one person said, an attorney said, there's no such thing as truth. your truth. It's individual truth. It's your truth. What's true to you? And I'm like, no, there's still truth. And there's still false. They're still true. They're still false. Things are open to interpretation. But if she shot him 5 times and he was wrapped in the bedclothes, so let's say she's telling the truth. They were drinking. She blacked out. For one, most of the time, if you black out, you lose consciousness. So you might drink so much you forget what happens. Okay. But you don't drink so much you black out, you pass out, and you shoot somebody in your sleep. You're usually still doing things, and then you black out and you forget what you did. Okay. So the defense of blacking out and shooting somebody, that you may have blacked out afterwards and you don't want to remember what you did. Or you may have had so much alcohol consumption that you can't remember what you did. But that doesn't mean you were blacked out and unconscious while you were shooting the guy. And this is what she's trying to say. Well, I was unconscious while I was shooting him. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm like, that's... So we're going to assume that that's possible and assume that this is what she's doing. So she's blacked out and shooting the guy. I guess she sleepwalks. I've heard of people sleep talking and sleepwalking, but I guess she's also sleep shooting. So she's sleep shooting this guy.
That's a first.
Yeah,
she's sleep shooter.
She's sleep shooting this guy in self-defense. Okay, but her story still says that it was out by the pig pens. So if she dropped him by the pig pens, she still had to stand over him and viciously fill his head full of bullets. Okay. When she ran out of bullets, she supposedly, what did she do? She'd go back into the master bedroom and pull the comforters and sheets off of his bed and then roll him up, take him back out to the backyard and roll him up and put him underneath the boat that way. Why did she go in there to take the sheets? And how did all the blood spatter get on the headboard? Okay. So, here's the thing. So if we're taking her story as legitimate, we have to suspend our understanding of reality. So we're going to suspend reality. We're going to say she's sleep shooting this guy in self-defense, and she is going to still think good enough while she's sleep shooting to say, okay, now I need to get rid of the body. I'm going to go in the house. I'm going to wrap him in my bed sheets. I'm going to wrap him up in my comforter, and I'm going to put him underneath the boat. And then the next day, I'm going to go to Dollar General. I'm going to buy tarps. I'm going to buy bleach, and I'm going to buy mothballs. I wonder if she sleep shops. Because she sleeps shots, maybe she sleeps shops as well. So she sleeps shots and she goes over there and she buys all of these things. And then she comes back and she rolls him up into the tarp and she stuffs the thing full of mothballs. Then she takes the bleach and she goes back to the house and she scrubs down her bedroom to where you can't visibly see it without luminol. So where in that point did she wake up? And where in that point did she decide, okay, I've got to cover up what I did? Because here's the thing. At one point or another, she had to come back to consciousness. And she chose to go ahead and continue to cover up, manufacture stories, send out text messages as if she was her husband. She still ended up getting $400 out of the ATM and spending all kinds of money at different places around town. What point did she come out of this blackout period? What point? So was she still blacked out when she decided to go back in the house? To me, if you killed him outside, why go back in the house and get anything? Just put him under the boat. You know, I mean, why go back in the house and run your good bed sheets? I'm like, okay, I'm gonna wrap him up in the comforter because he might be cold as he's dying. Why did she do that? You know, she could have just rolled him underneath the boat and left him there until she got a tarp. Instead, she goes back in the house and puts him in the bed sheets. No, it makes more logical sense that she killed him. He was laying in the bed. She shot him. And then she made sure it was done by emptying her gun into his head. She rolled him up in the bloody bed sheets that she had already destroyed and drug him outside. That makes more logical sense. Is it just me, or does that make more sense to you guys?
Makes more sense.
I was thinking the same thing. Wouldn't that the story didn't make sense even on that part, that you would kill somebody outside and then go get the sheets. And if you were actually going to go in the house and get a blanket, why get the one that's on your bed? Don't you have an extra one left?
Well, that's to me. And then to me, you're so intelligent. You're going to get the ones off your bed. You're going to wrap him up and put him under the boat. Why didn't you take the fitted sheet too? They said that they matched the sheets that he in the comforter that he was rolled up in with bedding that was still in the house. I can't tell you how many times I've seen that in cases. I've gone over hundreds of cases.
Yeah.
I've seen that in so many cases. I was like, stupid. Go ahead and get rid of the rest of the sheets.
Yeah. They keep the fitted sheet and get
It's like, okay, I ruined the top sheet and I ruined the comforter, so I'm gonna roll him up in that, but I'm gonna keep the pillowcases.
Yeah.
Just so everyone knows, a set of sheets comes with a fitted sheet. It comes with a top sheet. It comes with at least 2 pillowcases. Sometimes it comes with a bed skirt and a comforter. So if you're going to kill somebody, take all of it. Don't just put one piece out.
Yeah, I can't mess up my candy cane set.
Well, but this is what I don't, I'm being facetious here, but I'm trying to get across how ignorant this story is. And then you add into the fact that for the whole 2 months, it has been dozens of lies, just one on top of another. Why would you believe this thing she says when she's got a dozen lies over here? Once somebody starts lying, then everything they say is brought into question from then on out. You don't just, okay, I'm going to lie about one thing, but I'm never going to lie about anything else. Once they start lying, you should question everything that they do after that. And to me, this was premeditated as far as it's premeditated. And then she spent all this time trying to cover her tracks.
Yeah, because didn't she even dig a hole under the boat?
No, she didn't dig anything. Well, no, she just rolled him under the boat. And that's my point. If you're going to be a lazy sack of and just roll him under the boat after you killed him, why did you go in the house and roll him up in the sheets? You know what I mean? She obviously you don't care about somebody if you're going to fill them full of lead. But my point is if she's going, why did she care so much to wrap him up in sheets after she'd already killed him out by the hog pen? To me, it makes more freaking sense that she killed him in the bed, because he's still a full-grown man, and she knew that he could probably defend himself if he saw her with a gun. Mm-hmm. So she catches him at his most vulnerable. He probably didn't have glasses on, nothing. She probably shot him in the chest and then finished him off, made sure
and wasn't smart enough to get rid of all the sheets.
Yeah, and so to me, I'm sitting there going, you don't... For someone to stand over somebody and just fill them full of lead, that is a different level. You didn't just shoot somebody once or twice or have an automatic weapon that went off 2 or 3 times while you were huddling in the corner. And then they drop down to the floor and you race out of the house and call the police at the neighbor's house and tell them what you did. I see there was some cases where I've seen that happen. The woman and the child were huddled in the corner. The man was coming after her. She shot once, it hit him in the foot. She shot again, it hit him in the shoulder, got down. She ran across the road to the neighbor's house with the kid, screaming, help me. They called 911. The guy ended up eventually dying on the way to the hospital. But that was a true domestic situation where she was fighting for trying to protect herself and her child. And yes, two shots were fired, but it was one of those more of a semi-automatic thing that it went off more than once. But he got hit, he went down. You don't get hit, especially in the chest, and don't go down. That's going to do massive amounts of damage, whether it hits the heart or not. You're going to hit lung tissue, you're going to hit ribs, you're going to hit your collarbone. It's going to do massive amounts of damage. You're not going to Rambo up and just get up and keep coming. And so to me, nothing about this case shows that it was self-defense. Nothing about this case shows that she deserves a new trial. But she did eventually plead guilty to second degree. So that means, according to the books, this was a non-premeditated murder. And I think that's absolutely false. I think they should have gone ahead and tried her and left, even if they did do the death penalty, left it on the table. But I guarantee you that's the reason why she did plead guilty before the second trial, because I seen a newspaper article where they had included her case in a group of other cases that the judge was considering the death penalty. And I think, she decided she didn't want to be a caretaker. I don't know what her actual reasonings are, because she never has said a reason. But I guarantee you that's probably it. She didn't want to be a caretaker anymore. And she killed her disabled blind husband, and then has spent the rest of this time since 2017. So it's been 8 years. She spent the next 8 years trying to defame his character. And so I think that's where we're at. I think that's a level of psychosis that she deserved more than a guaranteed 25 years.
Oh, yes. And also she was planning to fake her own death.
Right. And that's where we're going to get to next.
And disappear.
She said, here's where we're going to go to next. This is a picture of a letter. Let me know when you can see it. Miss T found this letter for me. This is the letter that she wrote to the detective. Her plan, a confidential informant told the police that she had contacted this person and wanted help faking her death and help getting out of the state. So her plan was to fake her own death and to move out of state. Now, anyone who thinks that they can fake their own death and move out of state in the modern world that we live in has some issues, because that is extremely difficult, especially now with facial recognition software. When you don't have a whole lot of money, you've seen what kind of house they lived in. It's not like they are multi-millionaires. She got a big paycheck when he got paid, and it was $400. So what exactly, who is she going to be able to hire to get you've got to pay to get new driver's license. You've got to pay to get new birth certificates and all of your documentation to prove who you are. You've got to pay to get those things, and they aren't cheap. If you listen to some of these people, there was one guy who I listened to. He lived life on the run for 18 months, and he put it out in a YouTube video of all of the problems it took, and how much money it took, and how much wrangling it took, and how much stress and chaos it took to survive on the run under a new identity for 18 months. And he had millions of dollars. He finally ran out of money, so the whole idea of faking your death and moving to another state and getting away with murder, it's a pretty fanciful notion.
Yeah, because you got to have all those criminal connections to hook you up. Yeah.
And some Joe Blow down the street that you see in the bar that looks like he's been in jail isn't going to have those kind of connections.
Right.
They always end up going towards somebody that looks kind of roughneck, and they're like, oh, he spent time in prison. He must know how to do this. No, if he spent time in prison, he didn't accomplish his goal. you know. So, but so can you guys see this letter?
Yes.
Okay, this is
I,
the letter that
I
Tammy
noticed that
sent to
everything
me.
she did to try to cover her tracks just left a trail for the police.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
So
not a
this is
good
the
one.
letter that she wrote to the detective, and they said that this was her note saying, you know, that she was going to fake her death, and this was supposed to be the note she left behind. But like Miss T said when she sent me this, she goes, "Oh my gosh, look at her handwriting. I wish I had that good a handwriting." Do you guys see this? How great handwriting that is? I'm sitting here going, it almost looks like calligraphy. I say, oh wait, I forgot. She was supposed to be the battered, abused, stressed out woman who just accidentally killed the man she loves. But she can write like perfect. I'm sitting here going, I write like crap. And then if I'm stressed out, you can't read it. So I'm saying her handwriting doesn't look stressed out to me. It doesn't look like she's upset about anything. I think you get a handwriting expert and they're going to tell you, oh, she don't look stressed at all.
No, that looks very calm.
It looks beautiful. I'm
Mhm.
sitting here,
It
you
looks
almost expect
calculating.
being done with a quill pen.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think? Do you think this is the handwriting of someone who is stressed out of their mind? That she just woke up from this blackout drunk and realized she killed the man of her dreams? I mean, does this look like the handwriting of somebody who's done that?
No, and it's so long.
It is. Well, and this is just one page. It goes
Yeah.
on and you can look down. It continues on a couple other pages. I think it's 2 or 3 pages long. So Kimberly Lott says some people watch too much TV. Absolutely. That is
Yep.
exactly what it is. People see these things on TV, you know, just down to, you know, they think they're like, well, I had to shoot him 5 times because he just kept coming. No, they do that on Rambo, you know, and I'm sitting here going, Sylvester Stallone is as BA as they come, but he has never been shot. It's fake, you know. And that whole concept of him going to sew himself up, you know, you see the Rambo and he pours whiskey on it and screams, ah! And then he takes this thread, the biggest thread you've ever seen in your life, and a needle about that long, and he's like, and then he keeps going. I'm like,
The gunshot doesn't hurt, but the whiskey does.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And then he gets on a horse and he goes again, you know. And I'm sitting
Rides
here like,
off into the sunset.
yeah, with the woman always,
Yeah.
you know. But
So-
to me, I'm just thinking that makes for good 80s action movies. But that's not the way it works in reality. Most people couldn't handle a gunshot and keep moving. That's not the way it works. Your body is in extreme pain. It feels like where it punctured the skin, it feels like it's on fire. You have a lot of nerve endings that are just firing off like electrical out, like, you know, hot wires, you know, like, you know, you see in the movies, you see those high line wires that get broken, they fizzle in. That's not even the way that works in real life, but that's what your nerves are doing. And you're searing pain. You got massive pressure. You've got blood coming all the time. You're going to be weak. You're going to be dizzy. The more you lose, you know, you're not going to keep going. In other words,
Just
you're
get
not
out
going
the
to keep
crazy
going.
glue.
Oh yeah, that's the next thing. Yeah, pour alcohol on it and super glue it. Duct tape. You know, this is where I feel like this case, it really upsets me because I feel like this woman did not deserve a new trial just because the evidence proved her lie wrong, and they didn't give the defense team enough time to come up with a new lie. And I'm like, when are we going to stop this? When are we going to stop allowing these people new trials based on a loophole like that? And when are we going to stop these trials? Because the next thing is half the time the jury doesn't get to hear all of the evidence because the defense argues that, well, that may taint the jury's idea. You know, that may taint the jury. That may make them biased against my client. Well, if you did it, the jury needs to be biased against the client. You know, And so this is something that I feel like in this country, our judicial system is really going off the rails, because this woman did not deserve a new trial. This woman did not deserve a lesser sentence. She killed her husband in cold blood. I contend it was premeditated. All of her behavior points to premeditation. And then she gets basically 25 years. She got 32, but a guaranteed 25 before parole. Now, before I get off, there is one big bombshell. But
Bum,
before I
bum,
give
bum,
that,
bum.
Cricket, do you have anything to add before I hit the bombshell?
Go for it.
Tammy, you have anything to add before I give you the bombshell?
Nope.
Okay. I am going to share one more time. Share the screen one more time. And I'm going to go right here. And I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of the screen. And you see this man's name, Ward Everett Barnes. Do you see his name?
Yeah.
Mhm.
This is the bombshell. This woman right here has been married at least 3 times that we know of. And the last 3 husbands that she has died very unexpectedly. And this man, Ward Everett Barnes, was 38 years old and died suddenly without warning, June of 2011. Now, it is at this point where they said that he was acting very drunk and he passed out and died in his bathroom floor and stopped breathing. Now, she rushed him to get cremated. There was no autopsies, and it was considered a suspicious death. At this point, after this woman's been arrested for murdering Butch, they have decided to reopen the death investigation into this husband. This was her, I believe, her second husband, Ward. They're actually reopening the death investigation into Ward's death. Now, the death of the man before him was a suspicious car accident. So I don't know how many times this woman's been married, but she is either the most unlucky bride ever, or there's something else going on. This is what the officer said. She's either the worst luck with husbands, or there's something else going on. I contend that she may be a serial spouse killer. What do you guys think? Do you think this woman just has the worst luck ever? Or
No.
do you think her first husband died in a suspicious car accident? No investigation. Her second husband died very suddenly and suspiciously, and she rushes him to cremation, even though the death investigation couldn't get anywhere because of the cremation. And then all of a sudden, her third husband, she just gets tired of messing with him and she just shoots him 5 times.
Yeah,
And
and
her
it
second
seems they
husband
don't
was
last long
38.
because if Ward died in 2008, then she's on trial in 2017 for the last husband.
Well, he died in 2011, and this guy died in 2017. She said she was only married for 3 years to this last one. She was married longer to the second one. So this is a case that I'm going to keep following, because I have a sneaking suspicion that we're going to find out that this woman is a serial killer.
Yeah, so
Just
I
have
hope nobody marries her in prison.
I'm sorry.
I hope nobody marries her in prison.
Yeah, you've got about 3 years. Your life expectancy is 3 years or less with this
Yep.
woman.
Maybe she'll be able to kill the person. She'll be
Maybe
able-
they have
or
a
maybe
longer
they'll-
life expectancy, because it is harder to kill people through the mail.
Yeah.
I wanted to say that her second husband was only 30 years old
Mm-hmm.
when he died suddenly.
Yeah, he was 38. And then this husband was only 48 and she was 52. So she
When they hit those age, they better watch out, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is where we're at. So this is the story of Dorothy Singer, and I told Tammy a joke while we were researching this. You got to keep all of these dark topics. You got to keep a light heart with them, or they will drive you insane. And so sometimes our our humor is a little bit dark. I do apologize. I always try to keep it as clean as possible because of the victims' family members. But I did come up with a joke. Dorothy Singer told a zinger in court today. So I was like, that's what I want to put on my title for my video. Dorothy Singer told a zinger in court today. So Venus says she doesn't need a new trial. She's guilty of sin. I absolutely agree. Venus says, I hope this is not a serial killer. I have a sneaking suspicion she might be. She might be, considering that she rushed everybody to cremate him, and because there was a death investigation going on, and she rushed to cremate him, and that kind of finished the death investigation.
Well, they shouldn't have cremated the one if they put it down as a suspicious death. Why are they cremating them?
I don't know. I don't know how she got by with that, but we'll find out. I'll keep an eye out on this. Make sure you guys like and comment and share. All that stuff really helps me out. And
subscribe.
Subscribe, absolutely. So I'm going to get off here. I've got a little short video clip that's going to run at the end. Make sure and check out my new Patreon page. I have got something new that's going to come on. I'm going to start sharing my mystery files. See, I have a whole bunch of files that are part of my true crime archives that when I came back to true crime this year, I did not re-upload them for various reasons. There's some behind the scenes information. There is some cases that I've gotten some new information that I'm not real sure about. So there's going to be some mystery files, some secret files, and I'm going to start uploading those to Patreon. So if you want access to those secret files, join my Patreon page. I'm going to have that uploaded. I think it's like $3 a month, and you'll get extra behind the scenes information. So if you'd like to support me and my channel, check out my Patreon page, and you'll have access to some things that other people don't get to see. So, all right, guys, tell everybody bye.
Bye, everyone. See you next week.
Good night. Have a good one.
Today's episode is brought to you by Bones Coffee Company. You can forget about boring coffee when you drink Bones Coffee. Not only do they offer a variety of flavors such as strawberry cheesecake and maple bacon, they are a family-owned company that puts great detail not only in their coffee, but in the artwork that comes on each individual bag. Bones Coffee has a coffee club that will deliver your favorite coffee to your door every month. If that wasn't enough, they also have some amazing swag to offer. Check out Bones Coffee Company today. I'll have my affiliate links in the show notes for you.